Good Monday morning. I hope you're ready for another draw along. Today it's rainy again here, but we had a beautiful weekend, so I'm excited. Spring is here and the flowers are all out, and I thought maybe we would work on drawing some tulips. And since it's wet, I thought maybe we would add some water drops on our tulips. That's always a fun thing to learn, and focus on shading today. I think shading adds so much to your drawings and really helps the viewer feel like they can move in and around your drawing and be a part of it, interact with it a little bit better. So we're going to focus on shading on our tulip and on our water drops, because those are just a lot of fun to learn how to draw and play with. So without further ado, let's get to our drawing today. Okay, so we have our computer paper and our 2B pencil. This one actually says number 3 hard, but it's standard pencil. Any pencil will do. I'm going to go step by step on drawing the tulip. We'll keep it really simple. Tulips are a lot of fun. There's all different kinds of ways to draw them, but we're going to focus on a bud today. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of draw a rectangle with rounded corners. And once we get our rectangle in, we can begin to shape it a little bit better into our tulip, but we I put it at an angle because tulips don't always stand up straight. Sometimes they lean over. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some different tulip leaves in here. We'll make this one come in a little bit taller. It can come down in through there, go behind that petal a little bit. And then we can actually change the shape of this one, cut out that corner, make it a little taller. We can, well, we'll bring it all the way around over here so that we've got there you go. And this one's going to come in a little bit, and this actually might not be quite so square. Bring that down a little bit, just a hair, and then we can put in our stem. The tulip leaves are tall and thin, so we'll go ahead and we'll add one, maybe curving this way. We're going to have it come behind the tulip stem. So we'll just bring it in there. And we can actually, let's do something fun. We're going to twist it a little bit at the bottom here so that it'll actually come out that way. And then we can shade that to show what that would look like to have the leaf be twisted. So what I did was I made one line come right down next to the tulip stem. One line isn't quite as smooth because it's going to cut in right here, and then the third line is going to come right down this way. So still some pretty simple shapes. We'll do a leaf here, make it come behind the tulip a little bit, and then come back down. We'll just leave that one pretty simple for right now. Maybe we'll put that one in front of the tulip, in front of the stem, since this one went behind. And our tulip stem. Well, that's pretty good for a tulip. What do you think? So at this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide that the sun is coming this way at our tulip, or the light. Actually, it's raining because we're going to add some raindrops. They could be dew. But if I know that my light source is this way, I know where the reflections, where the highlights are going to be and where the most shading is going to be. And we know that the tulip's leaning this way, so most of our drops are going to stay right in here. So we're just going to go ahead and make a couple of, and raindrops aren't perfectly round, and we certainly don't want 4. So we'll do 5. That might be too many, but we'll play. Maybe need to put some over here and one up here. So we'll play with those as we get going. What we've done though is we've marked them. So we're not going to do any shading in those until we begin to work on them. So avoid them with your pencil. So when we talked about shading before, I think we talked about it briefly in the May 4th draw along, and we used it on R2D2 and BB8. You know, shading is where the object begins to move away from the light. It has more shading, and that is true, but also there's more shading where things sit behind other things. So there's going to be more shading on this leaf because it actually is going to have some of the light blocked by the flower, by the tulip itself. And then of course this part of the tulip and this part of the tulip sit behind these front two petals. So they will be darker and the lines on them will be darker. So this will be darker in here to show that it is actually sitting behind and where that meets. So one of the ways that you can see where the darkest parts are, if you're doing a drawing from life, is to squint your eyes. And when you have to look at things through your eyelashes, it has a tendency to add contrast. So it makes the darks darker and the lights lighter. So you can really see the areas that are the darkest and the areas that are the lightest. And that will help you know where to put the most of your shading. And there is shading from being the light source being blocked, and then there's contour shading. And what, excuse me, what we're talking about right now with the tulip is going to be contour shaping so that it looks round like a tulip. And then the shading on the leaf is going to be the cast shadow shading, or where the light is actually blocked, and so it's not getting any or any light there. So those are your two main types of shading. There's other different kinds. We go into those later, but they fall into those two categories. There's just some nuances to shadows that can be a lot of fun to play with. So for this one, what we're going to do, we know the light's coming from here. So this side of the tulip is going to be our darker side. The bottom will be our darker, because even though the light is coming from here, it's going to hit here and it's going to splash out. But this in here is still going to be relatively dark, all of this. And this will be dark because it's behind, so it will get even less light. But there will be some shading even in here on this piece, as it's not getting direct light. So one of the things that makes where the edges meet, I mean, you could just have a very dark line here for underneath, because it's going to have a cast shadow from this petal, as well as the contour shading, because it sits behind and it's round. So we can add that dark in there. We know we can start with that and just start adding it in, with the darkest being there, and then kind of coming out to a little bit lighter as we go into more of a contour. It'll be dark down here as it's moving around, but it doesn't have to necessarily be as dark right in there. And then this line, let's firm that up a little bit. It's going to be a dark line, but it won't have a cast shadow, and it will not, it'll have contour shading as we get there, but that will just be more like just a line right there to show the difference between the two planes, the two petal planes. So there, that would kind of work for the inside bottom petal. This top petal, we had talked about the contour shaping as it's coming away from the light. It will, and it'll be a little bit darker in here. Sometimes, though, there is this light edge as it turns up just a hair right there. And so you can sometimes leave that very light. You don't have to leave it completely white, because it wouldn't be brightly lit. But it is a bit of a line right there that kind of highlights that the petal pops up and then there's something underneath it. So then we're just gonna go ahead and tulips often have some color up in them, so we can annotate that with some lines, but the shading itself is going to be over here on this side as it starts to roll away from the light coming this way. And if we were using color, we maybe would do these lines with a lighter color and then down here with a little bit of a darker. Okay, so that's pretty good shading on that right there. And I've made this line pretty dark. That's a little illustrative. An actual tulip wouldn't have quite that dark of a line, but we're gonna leave it right now. We'll try and clean that up a little bit later. As we come up here, this petal, it sits behind these two. So this will be, again, very dark right here. And it will have a cast shadow because this petal, even if it's laying on it, is blocking some light right in there. The stronger the cast shadow, the more space between this petal and this petal. So that's something to keep in mind. You can make it look like this petal is actually standing off further, or as if it's laying right on this one by having a very small cast shadow. So we're gonna go ahead and just do the same thing we did on the bottom with this. This will be darker because it is going away from the light, part of the contour shading. But then up here, it's probably gonna get some light. So we're gonna try not to darken it down too terribly much there. Okay, and we're gonna actually just kind of darken in there just a little bit more. I kind of like the look of that space right there. Okay. We're gonna leave that like that for now. We'll come back and readdress it. We'll start working on this petal, which is going to be the furthest away from the light, so it will be the darkest. Because the light is coming this way and we know petals aren't exactly flat, there may also be that little line of light right here. And it wouldn't go the whole way, but it would go a good part of the way right there. And it actually would probably be pretty light. So we'll go ahead and just start coloring it in, shading it in from there. Come around our water drops. Okay, we'll make sure we know where our leaf is and where the side of our tulip is. Pardon me. I do roll my pencil to make sure that when I want a fine line, I'm actually working with the sharp end, a sharper point, and then I go back to a bit of a flatter one and work on the side for shading. I hope that makes sense. When you shade for a long time on one side, you kind of get a flat plane on your pencil lead, which is nice for shading, but it's not great necessarily for drawing dark lines. So that's what I meant. I'm going to leave that pretty light up there so that this piece stays dark and you can see that there's a difference there. Put some lines in it like we did on this one because it is a tulip and it will have some veins in there. And then this is probably a little bit dark right here. There would not be such a drastic change in value. So we'll just go in with the eraser and just dab it until it blends in just a little bit better. So it's not quite so intense of a line. So there. And then if we get too much, you can go back and just add a light touch, just barely touching the paper to get a little bit more in there. Darken this down a little bit more. I think that's pretty good. I think our tulip looks pretty good. Erase some of these outside lines that we don't need anymore. Some of these over here. And then get these down under here. Don't forget, you know, your eraser is really a tool just like the other end of the pencil. So if you wanted to come in here and lighten anything up, it will smooth it and it will help blend it. Eraser is a great tool. Also, you can smudge it with your hands. Okay, so let's get working on this leaf since we've already kind of started it. So we know the light is coming this way. So the leaf is going to be light here. And it really depends on what the leaf looks like. I know that tulip leaves have a dark center. They kind of fold as they go to a point. So chances are this one has kind of a strong vein running through here. And that's actually where its darkest will be because it's folded away from the light. And then these two sides are probably going to be pretty light. So if we put a vein in the center of this, all the way up to the top, and then we shade along that vein just a little. And you can color out from the vein. It'll be dark down here as it's turning towards the ground, so that's not a problem. Just keep your vein line a little dark. Then as you're up here, here's our vein line. You can just start shading from that and then slowly go out and lighten. So start at the vein line, go out and lighten. Go out and lighten. And do that here, even though we know that there's a cast shadow here, we can continue that cast shadow all the way to the other side. Okay, and there's probably not going to be a ton of light up there from that flower as well, and then very little right there. So then we're going to come back, and on this side we're going to do the same thing. Start on our vein line, shade towards the outside line, and just get lighter as we go. Start here on the vein line and get lighter as we go. Start at the vein line and come out, getting lighter touch as we get towards the edge of that leaf. So at this point in time, it's up to you if you want to go back and add a stronger line to the edge of the leaf, or if you want to leave it to the viewer to draw it in with their eye. Either way is perfectly acceptable. As we know, a lot of things disappear visually. Their value is the same as whatever is around it. And in all honesty, the lightest green on this piece would probably be right about there. And you almost wouldn't see the edge. It would just be a very light shading all the way out to like nothing. So keep darkening down that vein line and just shading out. Darken down the vein line and shade out. That's a pretty nice leaf right there. I'm gonna strengthen the cast shadow a little bit from the tulip on it. And that's usually a stronger shadow and it's got a line. So it's not quite blended in as much. because it is physically dropping a shadow onto the leaf. So you don't have to be afraid to draw a line in there. There would be a line from that tulip on the leaf like that. So under this tulip is going to be pretty dark. It's where it connects, and it's going to go right up in there. So that's going to be pretty dark right there. Then as it comes out again, we've got the light coming, and we know that the stem is round, so this side was going to be our darker side of our tulip stem. But we also know that we see this side of the stem when we're looking, and we actually see where it starts to move away, turn away from the light, going the opposite direction. So there is a very small shadow line or contour shading line there. Increase that a little bit so we can tell what's in front and what's behind where they meet. Go ahead and we will just darken this down. So your highlight does not have to be white, it just has to be lighter. There's not much white in nature. So we just keep darkening that down a little bit, and as we get closer to the other side, we lighten it up a bit. And we're going to blend that in. And we have those colors meet. Keep darkening this down. And blending it out towards the shadow on the other side. That's a pretty nice stem. Okay. Just add a little bit of detail in here. A little bit more line. There. That's pretty good. So this leaf, I'm going to try and erase some of these lines before we even get going so they don't confuse me. Okay, it's a little cleaner. I'm going to try and keep my pencil out of your way so you can see what I'm doing. So we know that this leaf will as well have a vein that runs through the middle. So we're probably going to see the vein closer to this side of the leaf. And it's going to come down, and it's going to actually get lost in here because this is where it's going to really start to sink back into itself. And in this leaf, because the light is coming this way and coming this way on it, not much of it's going to be in light. We're going to have a little bit maybe right here where the light would hit it and on this plane. So we'll leave that a little bit light. And this back here will also be getting hit with some light. So even though it's the back side of it, and it is in cast shadow from this being on top of it, it's going to be lighter than down here. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and hopefully it will all make sense as I get going. This is the back side, the underside of the leaf. It will be darker. I think we had the line right there. I'm getting confused with my vein line. So we're going to darken this in, knowing that the sun is coming this way, and so it's not going to be totally dark right there. We'll leave it a little lighter. We can always darken it down later if we need to. So filling it in, and then down here, it's probably going to be pretty dark. So we'll just go ahead and add some dark to that. It's not going to get any light down there. Or very little. Just go over your rough edges until they smooth on in and combined with the other pencil marks. Okay, this is where we started our turn. And I'm going to leave a little line down here just to show the lip of this leaf. The very edge of it would be catching probably the light coming this way, so we're going to leave just a little bit of this leaf unshaded. And we may have to go in there and erase a little bit of that. And our vine came, or our vein, sorry, came this way. So the vein's going to be pretty dark, as it was before. And it would shade out towards this edge. This edge up here is probably going to be pretty dark. And then very light, so it's going to, because the light is coming this way, the light would catch up in there. So it's not going to be as dark to light. It's not as smooth of a blend. It's going to be a little bit sharper of a value change. So this is going to be... Try to keep my hand out of your way. Use the side of my pencil to shade. And I probably got that too dark right there, but we can go back with our eraser. Just tap it out. And then this is the part of the leaf that I believe would catch the most light. So we're just going to have it be dark right up against the leaf, right up against where the vein is running. Well, the vein's now back here, but where it turns, you got the edge, and then this is the inside. So it would be darkest right there. And then it would not, there, go much further. So we've got, there we go. And again, I think I made that too dark, but we'll dab that out when we need to. We'll keep coming down here. And again, we've got some dark. We'll add a little bit of line work in here to help differentiate the two planes. If you have more than one pencil weight, for these very dark areas in here, you could get a 4B or a 6B and really darken those down, get a nice rich black in there. But with a regular pencil, it's very difficult to get a dark black. You just really kind of get a dark velvety gray. Okay, so we're going to dab that out a little bit. Just got a line there. Okay. Kind of a line there for some reason. Okay. Okay, So that's kind of our tulip. I think that looks pretty good. You can tell that this leaf has turned right here. And then I'm afraid this just isn't quite dark enough yet. So I'm going to come back in here and just add some dark right here. Darken that in as much as we can. It just looked a little like it was too light. And I'm going to actually darken in this bit of the leaf a little bit. It should not be quite so light. Okay. I think that's a little bit better. Add a little character to this leaf. Maybe that's what it's missing. Oh, that helps, doesn't it? Okay. Funny, a little character goes a long way, huh? Okay. All right. Oh, I like that a lot. That really helped that leaf, didn't it? Okay. So we're going to do some water drops. I'm going to try and zoom you in so that you can see these. Let's see if we can move the camera just a bit. Maybe I should have. Maybe I need to slide over. I know now you're a little crooked, but hopefully you can see a little bit better. Okay, water drops are a ton of fun. Let's see if I could zoom you in. Let's start with the biggest one, perhaps. Right there. The light is coming from this way. We've discussed that, so it would be coming here. So the beauty of a water drop is it is going to have a hot spot where the light is going to hit it. Then the light goes through the water and it expands on the outside of the water. So the darkest part of a water drop is actually right where the light's hitting it. Sounds strange, but that is true. And then it's going to get lighter here because the light is coming through it, and as the light goes through water, it expands. So we're going to go ahead and darken this in around our highlight there. Okay. Just darken all that. We're going to leave a lot of this until we get going and see where it needs to be. Okay, so there's that. The other thing, to remember about a water drop is that a water drop is actually a physical thing. So it has a cast shadow. So this line down here is very dark. The bigger the drop is, the bigger the shadow is. So we've got a nice thick line there, and then it'll have a line around the side as well. Not much on the top. The thicker this line is, the bigger your water drop is, the bigger shadow it's casting. And then, of course, it will. So we just made that a big water drop. Kind of fun. And then you can fade out that shadow a little bit so that it blends in a little bit better. Okay? So I think this one is pretty good. Our highlight's not great. If I were to get a white pencil, I would probably go back and do a little bit more. Probably, lighten that up. I seem to have a line going through it. I'm going to darken this a little bit over there. So that's the concept of a water drop. So we're going to do these with the rest of them. And then that's where my light's going to hit. So it's going to be the darkest here. And it's going to lighten up down in here. And it's going to have nice nice thick shadow right there. I do enjoy these. I like watching them come to life, looking like water sitting there. And the artists out there are amazing at this. I am not. I do have fun, but there are artists that spend a long time just doing water, and they have studied it, and they do some amazing things with it. If you get a chance to get out there and look at what they're doing, I highly recommend it. Okay, do this one nice and dark around it. Then lighten it up coming down here. Add our dark line. And then blend out our shadow a little bit in there. Okay, and the same with this one. Dark on top. And then lighten it all the way down into here. And add our shadow. Big, thick, dark line right there we're going to add. Right like that. That's a nice big water drop as well. Okay, then we'll do this one. Dark on top. Lighten it up as it comes down and goes out. Nice thick shadow line. Okay. Then over here, this line, this will probably be the highlight right here. So this over here is going to be the darkest. Lighten it up where the light goes through the water and comes out the other way. And give it its shadow. Blend that in a little bit better on those two. Those are big enough. They look like they might run right down the tulip. Okay, one more. Now this one, the highlight might not actually even be white. It might be a little bit darker. We'll see when we get it done. Just because it is behind this petal. Start with the same concept. Add your nice thick cast a shadow from the, yeah, and that light is too light, so we're just going to darken that down just a little bit. And if you do like I did and get too dark, get your eraser in there and give it a go again. And there you go. That line, the cast shadow there is probably not dark enough. And then blend it out. Okay, that looks like a mole maybe and not a water drop in there, but our tulip has a mole. It's a beauty mark. Okay. Tell me what you think. Let me zoom back out so you can see the whole thing. And, oh, let me see if I can zoom back out. Sorry. There you go. There is our tulip for today. Remember to, our tulip with a beauty mark. You could put water drops on the leaves. You could do some more tulips. You can do whatever you want. Remember, when you're done, please hashtag may you create so we can all see what you've done. Share this video with your friends and family so everybody can make moly tulips. It's going to be my new favorite thing. I'm going to give all my flowers beauty marks. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.